"This is not enough for me," the giant mail-order bride said to the virgin rancher. That night she moaned. "This is not enough for me," the giant mail-order bride said to the virgin rancher on their third night together, her voice cutting through the darkness like a knife. Through his carefully constructed world of fear and shame, Iris Calloway, 6'2" of raw power and unmet desire, had traveled 200 miles from Ohio to marry Owen Merrick, a 29-year-old Montana rancher who owned 8,000 acres of prime cattle land but had never once touched a woman with anything resembling passion. The virgin rancher had performed his husbandly duty like a man completing a business transaction. Quick, silent, eyes squeezed shut, rolling away the moment it was done, as if her giant body burned him with shame instead of possibility. But the giant mail-order bride wasn't like the delicate, silent women Owen had imagined would tolerate his coldness. Iris had been called too big, too strong, too much woman her entire life, rejected by men who feared her size, mocked by women who envied her strength, and dismissed by a society that told her a woman of her stature should be grateful for any man willing to claim her. So when the virgin rancher treated their marriage bed like a shameful chore, never kissing her, never looking at her, never asking what she needed, the giant mail-order bride sat up in that darkness and spoke the words that would either destroy them or save them both. "This is not enough for me. I didn't come 200 miles to be a warm body you use while pretending I don't exist." The virgin rancher had secrets he'd buried under 7 years of isolation on his Montana ranch, secrets about why a successful 29-year-old man had never been with a woman, about the religious shame that made him treat intimacy like sin, about the fear that his inexperience would be discovered and mocked. But the giant mail-order bride was about to dig up every single one of those secrets, because Iris Calloway had not survived 26 years of rejection, just to settle for a man too afraid to see her. What the virgin rancher didn't know, what terrified him more than cattle rustlers or winter storms, was that his new wife had been married before, briefly, to a man who died in a logging accident after only 8 months. And in those 8 months, Iris had learned what passion felt like, what it meant to be desired, what her giant body was capable of when a man wasn't afraid to worship it. But here's what made this story different from every other mail-order bride tale. The giant bride didn't leave. She didn't run back to Ohio. She didn't accept his coldness as her fate. Instead, she drew a line in the Montana dust and said, "You have a choice, Owen Merrick. Learn to be my husband in every sense of the word, or admit you only wanted a housekeeper with a marriage license." 4 days after those words, 4 days of brutal honesty, raw vulnerability, and the virgin rancher finally admitting the truth he'd hidden his entire adult life, something shifted. That night, Owen Merrick came to their bedroom and said 5 words that changed everything. "Teach me. I want to learn." And that night, the giant mail-order bride finally moaned, not just from physical pleasure, but from the soul-deep satisfaction of finally being seen by a man who'd been too terrified to look at her. But what had the virgin rancher been hiding that made him treat intimacy like a shameful duty instead of sacred connection? What trauma had convinced a successful, handsome man that he was fundamentally broken and unworthy of passion? And what did the giant mail-order bride teach the virgin rancher that night that transformed him from a man who couldn't meet her eyes into a man who couldn't stop worshipping every inch of her powerful body? More importantly, when the town of Stillwater discovered that Owen Merrick's new wife was unnatural in her size and improper in her demands, would the virgin rancher finally find the courage to defend the giant bride who'd saved him from a lifetime of fear? Or would shame silence him once again, driving away the only woman who'd ever demanded he be more instead of less? Scene 1 begins. The stagecoach rattled into Stillwater, Montana on a September afternoon when the sky hung low and gray like a bruise waiting to bloom. Iris Calloway pressed her palm against the window. watching the town emerge from the prairie dust, wooden buildings, dirt streets, suspicious eyes tracking the coach like wolves watching prey. She was used to those eyes, had felt them her entire life. The driver, a wiry man named Callahan, who'd made awkward conversation for 3 days, pulled the horses to a stop in front of the general store. "This is it, miss. Merrick's ranch is 12 miles north. Your husband should be here to collect you, husband." The word felt strange in her mouth, foreign, like swallowing something you weren't sure wouldn't poison you. Iris stepped down from the coach without waiting for help. She'd learned at age 14 that men didn't help women who made them feel small. At 6'2", she made most men feel very, very small. Her boots hit the dirt with a solid thud. Dust rose around her ankles. The September air smelled of horses and wood smoke and rain coming soon. She straightened to her full height, squared her shoulders, broad as most men's, and waited. People stopped. Actually stopped walking to stare at her. A woman in a blue calico dress whispered something to her companion. Both laughed behind gloved hands. 2 men outside the saloon elbowed each other, their eyes traveling up and down Iris's body like she was livestock at auction. A boy of maybe 10 pointed and said loudly, "Ma, look how big," before his mother shushed him with a scandalized hiss. Iris had heard it all before. Giant, freak, unnatural, too much woman, built like a man. Her mother used to say, "God makes all kinds, Iris, even the kinds the world don't quite know what to do with." Well, the world had never known what to do with Iris Calloway. A horse approached. A single rider on a bay gelding, moving with the easy confidence of a man who knew land and animals better than people. He dismounted in one fluid motion, and Iris got her first real look at Owen Merrick. He was smaller than she'd expected. Not short, maybe 5'11", but lean, wiry, all hard angles and sun-browned skin and dark hair that needed cutting. His face was handsome in a severe way, sharp jaw, straight nose, eyes the color of creek water. He wore work clothes, worn denim, a faded shirt, boots that had seen 1,000 miles, and everything about him said, "I am alone and I prefer it that way." Those creek water eyes met hers. Traveled up, and up, something flickered in his expression. Surprise, disappointment. It vanished so fast Iris couldn't name it. "Miss Calloway." His voice was deep, rough, like he didn't use it often. "I'm Owen Merrick. We're to be married." "I know who you are," Iris said. "Your letters were very thorough. Those letters, formal, businesslike, listing what he required in a wife, strong, healthy, capable of hard work, willing to live in isolation. Not once had he mentioned affection, partnership, love, just requirements. Like she was a horse he was purchasing sight unseen. But Iris had her own requirements. And she'd come 200 miles to see if Owen Merrick could meet them. "The preacher's waiting at the ranch," Owen said. He moved to take her trunk, then stopped when he saw her lift it herself. It weighed 80 pounds. She hefted it like it was filled with feathers. His expression flickered again. This time she named it, discomfort. "I can manage," Iris said. "I can see that." He tied her trunk to his saddle, his movements efficient and impersonal. "It's a 2-hour ride. Can you handle that?" "I grew up on a farm. I can handle a horse." He brought a second horse forward, a sturdy mare, and watched as Iris mounted. She did it in one smooth motion, her long legs making it easy. Most women needed help mounting. Most women were delicate creatures who required assistance. Iris had stopped being delicate the day she turned 12 and shot up past every boy in school. They rode in silence. The kind of silence that pressed against your ears and made you aware of every breath, every hoofbeat, every bird cry echoing across the endless Montana prairie. The land here was different from Ohio, wider, emptier, more honest somehow. The mountains rose in the distance like broken teeth against the sky. The grass rolled gold and endless. It was beautiful in a harsh, unforgiving way, like Owen Merrick himself. An hour into the ride, rain began to fall. Light at first, then harder, until they were both soaked through, and the horses' hooves splashed mud with every step. Owen pulled up his collar but said nothing. Didn't apologize for the weather. Didn't offer sympathy. Just kept riding. Iris didn't complain. She'd been rained on before, been cold before, been uncomfortable before. What she hadn't been was invisible. And right now, riding beside Owen Merrick through the Montana rain, Iris felt more invisible than she had in years. He didn't look at her, didn't speak to her, didn't acknowledge her existence except as a problem to be. Transported from point A to point B, it should have bothered her less than it did. They reached Merrick's, run just as dusk bled the last light from the sky. The ranch house was simple, single-story, wood frame, functional. A barn stood nearby, solid and well-maintained. Corrals held horses and cattle. Everything spoke of a man who valued work over comfort, necessity over luxury. A man in his 50s emerged from the barn, gray-haired, weathered, with kind eyes. "Boss, this the bride?" "Iris Calloway," Owen said, dismounting. "Iris, this is Tom Fletcher, foreman." Tom tipped his hat, his gaze traveling up to meet Iris's eyes with something like respect. "Ma'am, welcome to Merrick's Run." "Thank you," Iris said, and meant it. First kind words she'd heard since arriving in Montana. "Preachers inside," Owen said to Tom. Then to Iris, "We'll marry now. Get it done. Get it done," like they were shoeing a horse or mending a fence. Iris dismounted, her wet dress clinging to her body in ways that made Owen's gaze skitter away like a startled deer. She followed him inside. The house was as sparse as the man. Rough furniture, bare walls, everything clean but utterly without warmth. A tall, thin man in black stood by the fireplace. Preacher Marcus, Owen introduced him as. He looked at Iris with the same uncomfortable surprise everyone did when they first saw her. "Shall we begin?" the preacher asked. No greeting, no questions. "No, do you come here willingly?" Just, "Shall we begin?" "Yes," Owen said. Iris wanted to say no, wanted to run back to that stagecoach and ride back to Ohio and forget she'd ever been desperate enough to marry a man who treated marriage like a business contract. But Ohio had nothing for her. Her stepfather had made that clear. "Can't afford to feed you anymore, girl. You're 26. Time you found your own way." So Iris said yes. The ceremony lasted 5 minutes. Owen spoke his vows in a monotone, never looked at her. When the preacher said, "You may kiss your bride," Owen leaned forward and pressed his lips to hers for exactly 1 second. It felt like kissing a fence post. "You're married," the preacher announced. "God bless this union." Tom and the preacher left. The door closed behind them with a finality that made Iris's stomach clench. She was alone with her husband. Owen stood by the fireplace, staring into the flames. "Your room is through there," he said, pointing to a doorway. "There's a wash basin and clean linens. Supper is at 6. Breakfast at dawn. I expect you to cook for the hands. 3 men plus Tom. You'll manage the house and garden." "Questions?" "Just one," Iris said quietly. "Do you plan to speak to me like a human being, or will you treat me like hired help for the rest of our lives?" Owen's jaw tightened. "You are hired help, with a marriage license. I need someone to cook, clean, and bear children. You need food and shelter." "That's the arrangement." "The arrangement," Iris repeated. Ice was forming in her chest. "I see." "Good." He grabbed his coat. "I'll be in the barn. Don't wait up." He left. Iris stood in that cold, empty house and felt something inside her crack. Not break, she was too strong to break, but crack. A fault line running through her heart. She'd known this marriage was business, but somewhere, foolishly, she'd hoped for kindness, partnership, maybe even eventual affection. What she'd gotten was a man who couldn't even look at her. That night, their wedding night, Owen came to bed at midnight. Iris heard him moving in the darkness, felt the mattress dip as he climbed in beside her. He smelled of horses and wood smoke and rain. He touched her without preamble. No kiss, no words, just hands moving over her body with mechanical efficiency, like he was checking a horse for injuries. He pushed up her nightgown, positioned himself, and entered her with a grunt. It lasted maybe 2 minutes. The whole time, his eyes were closed, his face turned away, like he couldn't bear to see her. When he finished, he rolled away immediately, putting his back to her. Iris lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, feeling more alone than she'd ever felt in her life. This was her future. This cold, silent, mechanical existence. And Iris Calloway had not survived 26 years of rejection just to accept this. The third night arrived like a storm nobody wanted, but everyone saw coming. Owen performed his duty again. Quick, silent, eyes closed, turning away the moment his body finished what his heart refused to start. And that's when something inside Iris finally snapped. She sat up in the darkness. "This is not enough for me." Her voice cut through the room like lightning before thunder. Owen went rigid beside her, his back still turned, his breathing suddenly shallow. "What?" His voice was barely a whisper. "I said this is not enough for me." Iris's hands trembled, but her voice held steady. "I didn't come 200 miles to be a warm body you use while pretending I don't exist." Silence. The kind that screams. Owen sat up slowly, still not looking at her. Even in the darkness, she could see the tension in his shoulders. The way his hands clenched the blanket like it was the only thing keeping him from drowning. "I'm fulfilling my obligations," he said tightly. "What more do you want?" "I want you to look at me." The words exploded out of Iris. "Just once, Owen, once. Look at me like I'm a woman you married, not a chore you're completing." "I can't." "Why?" Iris grabbed his shoulder, forcing him to face her. His eyes were wild, terrified. "Why can't you look at me? Is my size so repulsive? Am I so monstrous that you can't even—" "It's not you!" Owen shouted, and the confession came pouring out like blood from a wound. "It's me. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never—" His voice cracked. "You're my first, my only. And I'm so damn terrified you'll realize. I'm broken that I can't—" The words hung. Between them like shattered glass, Iris stared at her husband, this virgin rancher who'd been too ashamed to admit he didn't know how to love. Too afraid to try, too convinced of his own inadequacy to see her at all. "You're not broken," she whispered. "Yes, I am." Owen's voice was raw. "My father taught me that touching a woman was sin unless it was for children. My mother told me passion was the devil's work. I built this ranch to escape people because I knew I'd never be normal. And now you're here and you're so—" He finally looked at her. Really looked. "You're so much more than I ever imagined. And I don't know how to be enough for you." Iris's heart cracked wide open because she'd spent her whole life being told she was too much. And here was a man terrified he was too little. Maybe they were both exactly what the other needed. "Then let me teach you," Iris said softly. She took his trembling hand and placed it over her heart. "I don't need perfect, Owen. I need present. I need real. Can you give me that?" Owen's fingers spread across her chest, feeling her heartbeat hammer against his palm. When he looked up, tears streaked his face. "I don't know how. Then we'll learn together." The next morning, everything changed. Owen didn't hide in the barn. Instead, he stood in the kitchen doorway while Iris made breakfast for the ranch hands, watching her move with that powerful grace he'd been too afraid to see. When she turned and caught him staring, he didn't look away. "Can I help?" he asked. 3 words. But they meant everything. Iris handed him a knife and a pile of potatoes. "Peel these." They worked side by side in silence, but it was different now. Not the cold, suffocating silence of strangers. This was the quiet of 2 people learning a new language together, the language of being present. Tom Fletcher walked in, stopped dead, and stared at his boss peeling potatoes beside his wife like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Morning." "Tom," Owen said without looking up. "Morning." Boss." Tom's weathered face creased into the smallest smile. "Ma'am, breakfast in 10 minutes, Iris said. The ranch hands ate with confused glances between Owen and Iris, sensing something had shifted but not knowing what. After they left, Owen cleared the table without being asked. Washed dishes beside her. Their hands bumped in the soapy water, and this time he didn't flinch away. "Come with me today," Owen said suddenly, "to check the north pasture. I want to show you the land." So Iris rode beside him into the Montana wilderness, and for the first time, Owen talked, really talked. He told her about building this ranch from nothing, about the first winter when he almost starved, about the loneliness that felt like a physical weight on his chest. "Why didn't you marry before?" Iris asked, as they sat on a ridge overlooking his cattle. Owen was quiet for a long moment. My father beat my mother every night, called it his right as a husband. She never fought back, never left, just endured. His voice went hollow. I swore I'd never touch a woman unless I could do it right, but I didn't know what right looked like. So I just didn't. Until you got lonely enough to send for a wife you didn't have to face in town, Iris finished gently. Yes. Shame colored his voice. I'm a coward. No, Iris turned to him. You're a man carrying someone else's sins. That's different. Owen finally looked at her fully, taking in her height, her strength, the way sunlight caught in her copper hair. I'm still terrified, he admitted, of hurting you, of disappointing you, of being compared to your first husband. Iris went very still. How did you know about Thomas? Mrs. Fletcher mentioned it. Said you were widowed. Owen's jaw worked. Was he? Did he make you happy? The question hung between them, vulnerable and afraid. Thomas loved me, Iris said carefully, but he also drank. And when he drank, he got mean. Not with his fists, with his words. He'd tell me I was too big, too loud, too much, that he'd married me because no one else would have me. She met Owen's eyes. The day he died, part of me grieved, but part of me felt free. Understanding dawned on Owen's face. So, when I treated you like you were invisible, I thought I'd married another man who'd make me feel small. Iris's voice cracked. That's why I couldn't accept it, Owen. I've spent my whole life being told I'm too much. I needed a man who could handle all of me, not just tolerate me. Owen reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he cupped her face with trembling hands. You're not too much, he said fiercely. You're magnificent. And I've been so busy being ashamed of myself that I couldn't see the gift standing right in front of me. Iris's breath caught. Tonight, Owen whispered. Let me try again. Let me do this right. How? By looking at you. By asking what you need. By being present instead of hiding. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. Teach me, Iris. Please. The sun was setting over the Montana mountains, painting everything gold and crimson. And in that light, Iris saw something she'd never expected to find. A man willing to be vulnerable enough to learn. Okay, she whispered. Tonight. That night, Owen came to their bedroom at sunset instead of midnight. He wasn't hiding anymore. Iris stood by the window, still wearing her work dress, her copper hair loose around her shoulders. She heard him enter but didn't turn around. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. Iris. His voice was soft, uncertain. May I touch you? She turned. Owen stood 3 feet away, his hands at his sides, waiting for permission. This man who owned 8,000 acres, who commanded ranch hands and broke horses, stood before his wife asking if he could touch her. It was the most beautiful thing anyone had ever done. Yes, she whispered. He crossed to her slowly, raised his hands to her face, and this time, his eyes stayed open, looking at her. Really looking. You're so beautiful, he breathed. How did I not see it before? You were too busy being afraid. I'm still afraid. His thumb traced her jawline. But I'm more afraid of losing you. He kissed her then. Not the cold 1-second press from their wedding. This kiss was tentative, searching, asking questions with his lips. Iris opened her mouth and showed him the answer. Owen made a sound low in his throat. Surprise, wonder, need, and deepened the kiss with trembling intensity when they broke apart, both breathing hard. Owen rested his forehead against hers. Tell me what you need, he whispered. Teach me. So Iris did. She guided his hands to the buttons of her dress. Slower, she murmured when his fingers fumbled with nervousness. There's no rush. We have all night. He undressed her with reverent slowness, his eyes widening as more of her body was revealed. When she stood before him in nothing but lamplight, Owen's breath caught audibly. God, he whispered. Iris, you're too much. The old fear crept into her voice. Perfect. He touched her collarbone, then her shoulder, then lower, mapping her body like sacred territory. Strong, powerful, perfect. Iris's eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. No man had ever called her body perfect before. She undressed him with steady hands, and when they stood facing each other with nothing between them but truth, Owen was shaking. "I don't know what to do next," he admitted. "Touch me," Iris said. "Everywhere you want to. Ask me what feels good. Listen to my body." So Owen learned. He kissed her neck and felt her pulse jump beneath his lips. He touched her breasts and watched her back arch with pleasure. He explored her body with the same focused attention he gave to everything he cared about, and for the first time, Iris felt truly cared for. "Here?" he asked, his hand moving lower. "Yes, oh God, yes!" He learned what made her gasp, what made her grip his shoulders, what made her whisper his name like a prayer. And when he finally joined their bodies together, when Owen Merrick lost his virginity to his giant bride, he kept his eyes open the entire time, looking at her, seeing her, present. "Iris," he groaned, his control slipping. I need, let go," she whispered. "I've got you." And when he did, when his body surrendered to hers, Iris felt something break open inside her chest. Not pain, release. The release of a lifetime of being told she was too much, that no man could handle her, that she should be grateful for scraps. Owen collapsed against her, his face buried in her neck, his breathing ragged. Was it good for you?" Iris laughed. Actually laughed. "Owen Merrick, you just gave me the first time in my life I felt truly seen during sex. Yes, it was good." He pulled back to look at her and his eyes were wet. "I'm sorry. For the first 3 nights, for making you feel invisible. I was so trapped in my own fear that I couldn't see your pain. You see me now," Iris said softly. "That's what matters." They lay tangled together in the lamplight, learning the geography of each other's bodies, talking in whispers about fear and shame and hope. Owen traced the curve of her hip with wondering fingers. "The town talks," he said quietly. "Martha Kinsley told Tom you're unnatural, that a woman your size is improper." Iris stiffened. "And what do you say?" Owen propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at her with fierce intensity. "I say Martha Kinsley can go to hell. I say any man would be lucky to have a wife as strong, as capable, as magnificent as mine. I say," his voice cracked, "I say I'm the luckiest damn man in Montana Territory." Iris pulled him down for a kiss that tasted like salt from both their tears. "I love you," she whispered against his mouth. "I wasn't going to let myself. But God help me, Owen Merrick, I love you. I love you too." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "I didn't know what love was until you demanded I figure it out." They made love again. Slower this time. Owen more confident, Iris more free. And when she moaned, when pleasure overtook her and sound ripped from her throat, Owen smiled against her skin like he'd just discovered gold. Because he had. The next Sunday, Martha Kinsley made a snide comment about Iris at church. Owen stood up in the middle of service, took his wife's hand, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "My wife is twice the woman any of you will ever be, and I'm proud to stand beside her." The church went silent, then Tom Fletcher started clapping. Slowly other hands joined in. Not everyone. Martha Kinsley looked like she'd swallowed a lemon, but enough that Iris didn't feel alone anymore. That winter, when the snows came hard and early, Iris worked beside Owen to save the cattle. She was stronger than 2 ranch hands combined, and she saved lives with her bare hands. The men stopped seeing her as the boss's odd wife and started seeing her as one of them, a partner, a force, someone who'd earned respect through sweat and grit, and every night Owen came to their bed and loved her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever been too afraid to ask. By spring, Iris was pregnant. "Twins," the doctor said. "They'll be big babies," he warned. "Given your size and his height." "Good," Iris said, her hand on her swelling belly. "The world needs more people who refuse to be small." Owen kissed her then, right there in the doctor's office, not caring who saw, because the virgin rancher had learned something his giant bride had known all along. Love isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about seeing someone, really seeing them, and choosing them anyway, not despite who they are, but because of it. If this story touched your heart, moved you, or reminded you that being too much is exactly enough for the right person. Please hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful true story of courage, transformation, and love. And tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love hearing from viewers across the globe, from every corner of the earth, where people believe in second chances and the power of being truly seen. Your support means everything to us, and we can't wait to bring you more incredible stories that prove love is always worth fighting for. Thank you for watching, and remember, you are never too much for someone who can't get enough of you. We'll see you in the next one.